Well, holy shit. Had I known I could go live on YouTube, I would have done this shit a long fucking time ago. I'm just gonna wait here for a while. I don't even give a shit. I really don't care whether or not people watch this or not. Just gonna see how it goes for a little while. Oh my dear God, is someone in this video already? Is someone watching me already? Hello. I can't get this position right. Of course, Bite Hunter. How's it going, man? Do you want to share this? Like, I don't see this getting very many people on here. I don't have very many people still following me and whatnot, so in the interest of increasing the overall viewership, I mean, I have TikTok. I actually created a TikTok. It's Ivium Academy, Ivium underscore Academy. And that has kind of gone to about almost 3,000 followers on there, talking about the ideas that I go over. Okay, so I have a number of books in front of me. I have Taoist Internal Alchemy. I have the 54 books of the Apocrypha. I have Man, Master, and His Destiny. And I have, and I, yeah, I guess you can't. Okay, share to Facebook. Cool, cool. I don't know if I can, let me see if I can share this shit to Facebook. Okay, I can share it. Let's see who I have. Actually, I'm going to share this shit to Telegram here for a second. All right. Oh, he left. Well, fuck. I was just sharing the fucking post. Anyway, whatever. Share it to Facebook. All right. Anyway, I don't really. It's like I was saying before. I don't really give a shit. So, how do I set it up like this? I highly doubt that I'm gonna get any viewership on here now that he's left. Link. Share to. It doesn't even say that you're here. I'm having a 0 on the people sort of tally. But anyway, I have this dude, man. I got some really good books here. Literally, I have the books that would set humanity free if everybody were to read them. And really, it just comes down to man, master of his destiny, and from dictatorship to democracy. Those are really the two books that could save humanity. They're two tiny fucking books. They're like, I don't know. This one's almost 200 pages, but it's like small. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a small book. If everybody were to read this, it would get them primed for reading From Dictatorship to Democracy. Because the only way that you can have hope of fighting a dictatorship is if you believe that you have the power to fight a dictatorship. And the only way that you're going to have that sensibility is if you feel like you are the master of your own goddamn destiny. You are the master of your own destiny. Of course, of course. I can't really do it with like I can play harmonica with one hand, but it's not as good. Plus, I have to be like quiet. It's like 12 o'clock at night. I feel bad if I like woke somebody up playing harmonica. Um, but it is my instrument of choice because I don't know. I just flow with that kind of an instrument. Same thing with saxophone. I loved playing saxophone when I was a kid, but it was only for school kind of thing. Like as soon as I was done with it at school, learning how to play it at school. Yeah, either way, it's still too late for playing harmonica. It's too loud. I mean, this thing fucking this is a Hohner. This isn't just a generic one. This is like a really loud, powerful sound from that thing. And I'm in an apartment. I'm not in a house or anything. Like, nobody lives above me or below me though. So I mean, it's not terrible. And I've had parties over here and shit before. I just feel like I can't express myself to the fullest level with that kind of with any instrument really, but with that in particular, seeing as how it gets pretty fucking loud. Like I'm even at the front of the apartment and I'm pretty fucking sure if I started playing that, it would be audible to not only this apartment but the apartments across the door, and then also like in the back room of the apartment that's next to me. It's just not a, but I mean, I could play it softly, but that's like lame as shit. I don't want to be playing the instrument softly. It's just not how it's played. Harmonicas are supposed to be played like boisterously and very loud, with a lot of sort of uh, inward and outward pressure. But anyway, so this Taoist Internal Alchemy book. Now I've read parts of the Secrets of the Golden Flower because of reading the Red Book by Carl Jung. Carl Jung's Red Book. And if you're not familiar with that, I highly recommend that book, man. Although it's expensive as fuck if you get the original version. It's like $200. Yeah, I spent that money. Goddamn right. It's full of paintings and stuff that he did. So if anything, you're actually paying for the artwork as well as what's inside of the book. And what's inside of the book is like literally him telling you that he had revelations from God and from the soul. So it's like here's a scientific-minded person literally telling you that everything that he represents and everything that he's tried to sort of do is wrong. Like science is totally separated from the truth. Anyway, so in Taoist or Taoist Internal Alchemy, it's talking about consciousness. It's straight up talking about how to expand consciousness. That's what this is about. All of the metaphors or symbolic sort of gestures that are used in here are like the golden flower and stuff like that. It's about consciousness that is no longer limited by the physical material form. And what this basically is talking about is like what Buddha did to transcend or ascend beyond the physical corporeal form. If one cannot see one's own heart, how can one join the heart transmitted by the Most High? The Most High, by the way. Of course, this is a translation from Europeans, but you know, the Most High is always going to be the grand consciousness that created all of the universe. This is why Confucian value inner observation, Ni Jing, and Taoists value inner contemplation, Ni Zhuan. Moreover, the Buddhist Sutra in 42 sections says, fix your heart on one point and nothing will be impossible. Well, of course, nothing being impossible sounds contradictory. Nothing will be I don't know. I think nothing is everything, so it's kind of hard for me to say that. Anyway, indeed, it is only through the supreme great way that we can entirely obtain the complete foundation of the one heart. How is this complete foundation? It is empty, pure, and unmixed. Such is the wondrous foundation of the ancestral teaching, Zhongzhi. As for its wondrous operation, it lies only in fixing one's heart on one point. And I think what they mean by one heart, their heart is like, attention, basically, but it has to be like this inner contemplation. Inner contemplation consists in the instructions for fixing one's heart. This is the secret teaching in the transmission from heart to heart. Not only can this be known by the heart, but it can also be transmitted by oral teaching. And not only can it be transmitted by oral teaching, but it can be displayed in writing. However, only when the practice reaches culmination and when the heart is empty and all contaminations come to an end, is it possible to instantaneously comprehend the mysterious and wondrous teaching. This is why I teach that you have to purify yourself before you can do fuck all. You've got to purify yourself. That's the first step in the process, always. And the Pentivium, glory be to the Most High, because that's what I was sort of intuited when I came up with this idea for the Pentivium. How did I just know intuitively, without having any of this research, that purification is the way? Not only cannot this be displayed in writing, but it cannot be obtained even by oral teaching. It is true emptiness, true silence, true purity, true non-being. The transmission of the mysterious pearl from heart to heart is extremely secret. It can be entirely manifested only after one has awakened to the way and has entered the way. There is no other means, because at that time the celestial heart opens itself like a cave. Nowadays, those who seek the way are like people crossing a great watercourse devoid of banks. When they reach the other side, they should forego the method, just like in the simile of the raft. But if they do not know where to go, how could one not provide them with a raft? I now take on me the responsibility of being an ordination master, and I will provide them with that raft. This is, by the way, Taoist Internal Alchemy. This is a series of Nedian texts. I'm reading right now from The Secret of the Golden Flower. I came across that book by reading Carl Jung's Red Book, or Liber Novus, which at the end he talks about the secret of the golden flower. And when I looked that up, I found it online. It's incredible, and it really is probably one of the most powerful things that I've ever read, other than certain teachings in the Bible and stuff like that, or Ken Wilber. Some of his stuff is really interesting. But this stuff is, if you understand, see, I'm already on the way, so I understand this writing. But if you're reading this or hearing this, it's understandable if you don't understand it. It is written in a certain kind of way. So anyway, I'm going to continue. Now, the one opening of the celestial heart is neither within nor outside the body. It cannot be opened by fumbling around it. It can only be silently maintained in order to tend to it. If you want to know how to maintain it, there is nothing beyond these words. Quote, form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. It is what the books on the elixir refer to as so, quote unquote, saying that it is not so, quote unquote, and yet it is so. It is just thus. Once it is opened, it remains open forever. Yes, once you reach a level of consciousness like this, you can't go back. It's not possible. As for the practice, it consists only in 2 words: maintaining sincerity. In your wondrous use of maintaining sincerity, there are instructions within the instructions. Therefore, when the time comes to cast away the 10,000 conditions or all the distractions of the world, you only use the character of the Brahma heaven. Maintain the central dot in the point between the eyebrows, the third eye, the hemispheric. What that's talking about is hemispheric syncing up the hemispheres. And that is something that has been proven to work. Maintaining the central dot in the point between the eyebrows, the left dot in the left eye, and the right dot in the right eye. Then your eyes will emit a spiritual light which collects itself in the point between the eyebrows. The point between the eyebrows is the celestial eye, the door through which the 3 luminaries enter and exit joined to one another. If you can use the 3 eyes like the character of the Brahma heaven, and if by means of the intention you subtly circulate the light, as in consciousness, whenever they say light, they mean consciousness in this, as if you were polishing a mirror, the 3 luminaries will coalesce at once in the point between the eyebrows. The light will glow like a sun in front of you. Then, by means of the intention, you lead that light and fix it in the point behind the heart and in front of the barrier. That point is the gate of the mysterious female. As you lead it by means of the intention, the light will at once fix itself there. As long as you do not forget the mysterious meaning of the 2 words, like that and thus, that's translation, but the celestial heart will certainly open itself like a cave. Later I will explain its mysterious operation again in detail. My urgent advice is, from beginning to end, never be led by transformations of the origin. By the transformations of the origin. So what they're talking about there is basically that at a certain point you're going to get distracted, basically, from this whole process, from the origin. The origin is the light, and it is the, the sincerity that he was talking about? Maintaining sincerity. So you have to maintain the sincerity that you came into this with, and it's very easy. I will tell you that's after 15-20 minutes or more of meditation, you start to get tired of it. But what he's saying in this is you have to keep doing it. If you want results, you're going to have to go for the hour-long meditation as opposed to the 15-minute. And the results are going to be over a period of time that your consciousness literally will expand and grow. And that doesn't necessarily mean like superpowers or whatever. It just basically means you're going to be able to see the underlying unity of all things. What life is about is a journey of preparation for how to die. That's basically it. That's the whole purpose of life. That's the whole purpose. The meaning of life is to discover how to die properly. And to be okay with death, to be okay with the transition of life into death. That's the whole meaning of life. Really. And so, but that encompasses everything. That encompasses the self-mastery of one's own destiny, essentially. If you can master your destiny by actually rejecting the world. The funny thing is that you actually have to, not reject it, but you have to transcend it. And the only way to transcend it is by sort of becoming one with it and with nothing at the same time. because that's where we are. We're in a middle point between absolute nothing forever. You know? And yeah, sure, the whole reincarnation thing, but that doesn't change a goddamn thing. We're still in this process of infinite death, life for like literally like a split second, and then death or non-life for virtually infinite period of time. That being the case, it definitely makes us have a kind of I mean, what the hell are we doing if we're not trying to like elevate and transcend, you know? Just living? It's materialism? I guess so. I mean, for the majority of people, that's pretty much what the reality is. Materialism is the reality, and then this stuff is the woo-woo kind of illusory thing, you know? But that's the sad part about it, you know? What the hell is the point of life? I've only caught the last few minutes so far, but thank you for your introduction to. Yeah, it's the. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, it's the Secret of the Golden Flower. Between that, I mean, the thing is, like, you have to be coming to that with a certain base knowledge. You can't just come to this kind of text with like virtually no knowledge. That's literally what it's telling you in the text. Is like your heart has to be pure to even come to this in writing and expect to get any results from it. I understand it because I've been studying this kind of shit for over a decade. So I have a basic understanding of this. Obviously, I'm not a Taoist monk. I'm sure if I was a Taoist monk, I'd have a much, you know, deeper contextual understanding of the specifics of what they're saying here. But the thing is, like, this isn't unique. Taoism and Taoist alchemy is something that was handed down perhaps even from the Egyptians. Like, the Egyptians may have over time transmitted that knowledge across the whole fucking world. Either that or Egypt itself, or Kem, that is, received that knowledge from an even more ancient and more connected civilization that's been totally forgotten. Because, like, in Taoism, they talk about this as being information that they got from ancient masters. The ancient ascended masters gave them this knowledge. And it's like, wait a minute, this is ancient knowledge. So you're telling me that you got it from ancient masters? Well, how far back into the past do we need to go to find the origin of this stuff? And it really does indicate, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, it indicates that there is a prehistoric civilization that had this kind of wisdom about the underlying unity of all things, and that somehow or another that got wiped out and forgotten. Like, it didn't just get wiped out, it got wiped clean, you know what I'm saying? And so that, and this book here. So if you read this book, this is Man, Master of His Destiny. Now, obviously it's not something that we need to think of as men only. This is just geared towards humanity as a whole. And Amram Mikhail Ivanov, that's the guy who wrote this book. I think he's French, something like that, or like Turkish or something. Anyway, here's a picture of the guy. Looks very stoic and like an ancient sage, but he's actually from, like, he was like this probably in the 80s, I want to say. It's a very interesting book that sort of goes over esoteric Christianity. This is esoteric Christianity, as far as anybody's concerned. What it talks about is the fact that Jesus himself basically was talking about. Do you have Amazon affiliate links? Oh, no, I don't. Sorry. Just have the titles. I mean, I could spend some time trying to add this into it, but I would just say, and there's a bunch of books by this guy. So just look up Man, Master of His Destiny. Just Google that. You'll find it. It's not and then as far as Taoist Internal Alchemy, that's another book that If you just look up The Secret of the Golden Flower, you will find this book as well as the original book. I don't know where I bought that book. I bought The Secret of the Golden Flower as a separate book because I want to just have that, and now I don't know where it is. I had to sort of transition my collection of books from one place to another, and everybody knows that's a fuck show, shit show kind of thing to do. So, um, I have probably over 100 books. I'm pretty sure I have over 100 books. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure I have like over 100 books. All of them are nonfiction. All of them are rooted in revolutionary thought and like, because the other book that I got recently was the 54 book Apocrypha. Because why the fuck not? It just came out this year. It's all of the books. It's everything. And plus I have the Gnostic Bible, which, so the stuff that's not in there, I also have that. So it's like, I have everything. And in fact, what I'm planning on doing, because I recently found a Bible dictionary from the 20s, I plan on basically becoming a Bible scholar. There you go. And that's the thing is like, it's free. It's so old. The Secret of the Golden Flower is so old. It's basically public domain. I found it on an internet page that had the whole thing laid out. Uh, what you have to understand is that the biggest thing in that book that I got was turning the light. Turning the light is the most powerful teaching that's in that book, which is basically to turn your consciousness back onto your consciousness, reflect your consciousness back onto itself, and so to reflect upon not your mind and your thoughts, right? Strictly your consciousness. And what I didn't realize was I've been doing that since I was a child to go to sleep. I use that technique when I'm in bed to fall asleep faster. But at the same time, when I do that, I usually see a pair of eyes. And what I'll do is I'll concentrate enough and I can see those pair of eyes come into one. And at that point, I tend to have sort of experiences and shit like that. I've had people talk about channeling information, but really it's about what it is you're connecting to the higher consciousness, and there's just a stream of information that is constantly going to be sort of entering your mind at that point. And that's part of the reason why I'm able to speak the way that I do, to be honest. 90% of the time it's just sort of flowing out of my mouth. There isn't really any kind of like thought process going on there. The stream of consciousness is how I like to sort of think of it. How I used to write as well was through stream of consciousness. So anyway, I just need to get in a situation where I'm like stable. Unfortunately, the world is not orchestrated or designed for people like myself. I'm like the martyr, you know what I'm saying? Like I have to throw my body onto this thing in order for the gears of it to stop working. I'm that guy. I have to be that guy. I've come to accept that that's my role ultimately. Kind of sucks though, because like I don't know, I wanted to do a little bit more, but I realized that I've come back here to do this, you know what I mean? Like I knew that back 2006 or whatever. I fucking knew that. When I heard about the whole idea of bodhisattvas, which are people who ascended and then come back to try and help humanity, that's pretty much what it is. Now I gotta help myself, fuck. But okay, so this is an important one. All right, so this book right here is From Dictatorship to Democracy. This is once you've got these books, or once you've learned the secret teachings of all ages, basically, or the secret teachings of the ancient sages, the next book, because that gives you heart. You need heart to fight the evil power. The evil power cannot be fought with violence. The evil power is violence. You see? Don't you understand? God damn it. Can you guys share this, please, with as many people as you possibly can? The evil power is violence at its core. If you commit violence to fight the evil power, you have become the evil power. It's like the dark side. Embrace the darkness. Embrace your anger. You know, that's fucking, it's right there in your face, man. But people are still like, I want to burn cars to make things right. It's like, dude, that's not how it fucking works, okay? You have to have heart. And you have to have you have to be centered in the heart. With your mind. Your mind and heart have to be unified, just like the eyes have to be unified in order for the third one to activate. You have to have the mind and the heart working together in order for you to fight the evil power. The evil power is violence, okay? It's at its heart, it is violence. And the evil power is the fucking, you know, the rich fucks that sacrifice children on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying? It is that, all right? So what I'm telling you is you have to have heart first before you can even consider trying to enact any of the shit from this book. Okay? This book is From Dictatorship to Democracy by Gene Sharp. And I'm going to read you a paragraph here that is extremely relevant to the times we're living in. And I want you to really listen to this, because this is like the most important thing you're going to hear probably all week, maybe all year. Who the fuck knows? All right. Give me a second here. Yeah. No, I mean, it's we can't be living for the corporations anymore. We have to stand up and fight against the powers that be, the evil power. We have to. There's no choice as far as this is concerned anymore. It's gotten to a point now where we literally have to stand up to this. Okay, so here it is. Now there's only one person. I mean, I'll fucking wait. I need more people to hear this. This is extremely important. This paragraph in the series of the series of things I'm going to read here. This is the most important thing you'll fucking hear. Probably for a long time, honestly. Many countries today are in a state of rapid economic, political, and social change. No fucking kidding. Although the number of free countries, free is in quotes here, has increased in recent years, because we're not free. We were never free. On its face, we may seem free. There are two people here. Oh, okay. I'm seeing only one. I only see one. It's weird. Anyway. Military cliques, ambitious individuals, elected officials, and doctrinal political parties will repeatedly seek to impose their will. Coup d'etat are and will remain a common occurrence. Basic human and political... Okay, very good. Political rights will continue to be denied to vast numbers of people. By the way, IG, if you could give this video a like, I'm pretty sure it increases the algorithm. Even if it's just got two, I'm only seeing one like on there. So I'm getting to the part where I was talking about. This is not the part what I was talking about. I have to like preface everything. So unfortunately, the past is still with us. The problem of dictatorships is deep. People in many countries have experienced decades or even centuries of oppression, whether of domestic or foreign origin. Thank you. Thank you very much. Frequently, and this is it. This is right here. All right, so listen up. Frequently, unquestioning submission to authority figures and rulers has been long inculcated. In extreme cases, cases of tyranny and despotism, the social, political, economic, and even religious institutions of the society outside of state control have been deliberately weakened, subordinated, or even replaced by new regimented institutions used by the state or ruling party to control society. If there's anybody new in here, please send a like so the algorithm can be improved. Now, to go on, the population has often been atomized. That is, turned into a mass of isolated individuals, unable to work together to achieve freedom, to confide in each other, or even to do much of anything at their own initiative. The result is predictable. The population becomes weak, lacks self-confidence, and is incapable of resistance. People are often too frightened to share their hatred of the dictatorship and their hunger for freedom, even with family and friends. People are often too terrified to think seriously of public resistance. In any case, what would be the use? Instead, they face suffering without purpose and a future without hope. Current conditions in today's dictatorships may be much worse than earlier. In the past, some people may have attempted resistance. Short-lived mass protests and demonstrations may have occurred. Perhaps spirits soared temporarily. At other times, individuals and small groups may have conducted brave but impotent gestures, asserting some principle or simply their defiance. However noble the motives, such past acts of resistance have often been insufficient to overcome the people's fear and habit of obedience, and necessary prerequisite to destroy the dictatorship. So people have to break their fear and their habit to obedience in order for them to destroy the dictatorship. Sadly, those acts may have brought instead only increased suffering and death, not victories or even hope. Think of the Georgia Guidestones, right? The Georgia Guidestones being blown up. The news was able to sort of, oh yeah, something happened, and then they just kind of went away. At least for the masses of the people, right? What are the Georgia Guidestones? Nobody's even asking that question. What was on it? What was actually on the Georgia Guidestones? What were they saying? What was that all about? Forget it. Don't worry about that. So back up here, I'm going to say, in extreme cases, the social, political, yeah, they were totally demolished without any investigation whatsoever. Okay, so in extreme cases, the social, political, economic, and even religious institutions of the society outside of state control have been deliberately weakened, subordinated, or even replaced by new regimented institutions. The new regimented institutions are Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, etc. These are the new regimented institutions that it's talking about here. The church has been totally deliberately weakened. Basically, what they did with COVID was they atomized everyone. They put everybody into their houses, and they forced them to become habitually obedient to authority. They're setting up a goddamn dictatorship in this country through the fucking medical legal dictatorship, and nobody wants to, you know, I will be silenced for this shit. This is the reality. We're in a dictatorship, and what it says in here is in extreme cases. So what we're talking about is literally we have an extreme form of dictatorship in this country. We're living in an extreme form of dictatorship. And because people have been desensitized and sort of propagandized to the degree that they have, nobody notices or cares. That's the nature of this, is that it, do you really honestly think that the people in Germany were aware that a dictatorship was forming around them as it was forming? And this is the thing. Violence is not the answer. I've already said this. Violent rebellions can trigger brutal repression that frequently leaves the population more helpless than before. So if you think that you're going to do some kind of, attack on anything, you're going to fail. Especially when it comes to the United States and the militaristic sort of, the militarization of the police and that whole thing. You're not going to do fuck all. So what we have to then do is realize that this is a spiritual, psychological war. It's an informational war. So you're not gonna fight them with physical altercation. You have to do it philosophically and spiritually, which is why I've devoted my time to that are oriented around philosophy and education, because A, they can't argue that. They can't, that's not on their level. If you argue in history and law and theology and philosophy in the form of education, it's a realm of ideas that government has to be subservient to. It's below the enlightenment of society. Government is subservient to the spirit of humanity. It's not, government is not a beast or a creation unto itself. It's something that we give power to with our daily activity and our obedience to it. But the second we start to question its authority and start to think that we have the power to control it and wield it, it comes into its proper position. Government is never supposed to be something that controls the mind. If anything, we have to control and self-govern ourselves in order to really embrace the intention of the founders, or really any enlightened person at all, ever, for that matter. In order to inherit the teachings of Yeshua or the Christ, we have to take a step back, if anything, and realize that, we're all, the deepest part of me is the deepest part of you. That's why love thy neighbor as thyself is even a concept. All of the ancient teachers throughout time have told us, hey, if you see truly deeply through your heart, you will see that all things are one. And by virtue of that, it means that we have a duty, sort of, to come together and actually make a better world for ourselves. What we currently have is a series of governments that have outlived their relevance to society artificially by keeping us dumbed down and incapable of resistance to their authority. And the best way we can get out of that is to deepen our hearts and unify the heart with the mind, and then come together in resistance against the tyranny. And I recommend everyone buy this book, honestly, From Dictatorship to Democracy by Gene Sharp. One of the best books that you could possibly own. According to WikiLeaks, a book that must be read, according to WikiLeaks. I mean, and I can't deny that that's true. This is one of the best books for you to own, in my opinion, and really it's an empirical fact. If you don't read this book, you're doing yourself a disservice. This is one of the most important pieces of writing that has been created in the past century. Because what this details is literally how to organize and strategize a revolt or a peaceful resistance against a dictatorship that is effective and that has actually been proven to be successful. Things like Gandhi and Martin Luther King are examples of people who have read or explored ideas that are in this book. So it's extremely important that you purchase a copy of this and read it from cover to cover. Look at this shit. I read this thing from cover to cover and made highlights on just about every page as far as the important information. It's full, literally full of extremely important and relevant information. The fact that they did this, I mean, in extreme, it's, you know, it's telling you that the world we live in currently is a dictatorship, literally. In extreme cases, the social, political, economic, and even religious institutions have been deliberately weakened, subordinated, and replaced by new, regimented institutions used by the state and ruling party over society. Think Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. These are the new, regimented, censored platforms whereupon you can socialize at a very restricted and sort of controlled way. Let's be real. The population has often been atomized, meaning turned into a mass of isolated individuals. Think COVID. Think the pandemic. This is literally what they did to people during this whole like sniffle that was so overhyped that they eventually caused everybody to get into the huddle into your homes, everybody. It's only going to be about 2 weeks. We're still here. We're still in this oppression. We're still, guess why? Because they were establishing a dictatorship. That's why. The result is predictable. The population becomes weak, lacks self-confidence, and is incapable of resistance. It's literally what the person who stepped in here and then stepped out did. They're incapable of seeing, A, that there's a dictatorship in the first place, and then B, they don't want to have to hear that. This is the problem. People don't want to hear that there's a dictatorship. Because guess what? It would mean that you'd have to do something. You know what I mean? Overall, the majority of people do not want to have to get up off their ass and actually resist tyranny. But that's why you have to have people like myself who will literally martyr themselves. I mean, look, if I go to DC and even if I do some peaceful shit, I'm going to get arrested. If I go to DC, do some peaceful speaking to people, whatever, there's a great chance that I'll get arrested just for walking around and talking to people, because the subject matter that I would be talking about would literally be, you know, from dictatorship to democracy, and telling people, hey, look, listen to this paragraph. Do you see any parallels to today? Now, I will also want you guys to know that I am currently on a 24-hour fast. I did a fast the day before yesterday. So yesterday I ate, and the day before that I fasted for 24 hours. I ate yesterday, and I have fasted now for 24 hours. I'm probably going to be over 24. I'm going to go to sleep here, and then I'm going to fucking wake up and then have breakfast. And that is so that I am purifying my body and my mind and my soul by doing this. The kind of fasting that I'm doing. However, and I honestly do think that fasting is important to health overall. But you have to understand, like, there is first of all, there is a way to actually overcome all this shit. It may seem hopeless, and is that what people think? Is that it's a hopeless sort of world that we're in? Is that the general consensus, that there's no hope? Or is there? Do you guys think that there's hope of overcoming the New World Order? You either act from what arises inwardly, or you continue on feeling powerless and dissolving. And see, that's the thing, is like, we as a society have allowed ourselves and our relations to just sort of fall into a deep sleep. And there's hardly any incentive or I guess not incentive, but there's hardly any push to do sort of what Christians used to do, which is to go out into the street and preach the sort of the message shamelessly and with gusto. You know, we've allowed ourselves as the collective sort of matrix escapees, because like you can mentally escape the matrix, but physically it's an impossibility unless enough people aggregate and actually represent themselves. See, when I read the book The Social Contract by, I want to say his name is Jacques something, I can't remember. It's an older book. It's from like the 1700s or some shit. But the social contract is what this country was based on. So in the social contract, it talks about if the people represent themselves, then a representative republic is null and void. If we were to come to DC, let's say if you were to take Burning Man, for instance, and fill that place up with people, that space, and then you double click that, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, thank you. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, The Social Contract. So if you were to take, because let's face it, if you get 150 people, they can make a city. Legally speaking, 150 people come together, they can make their own city. If you take an aggregate of the population of this country, say 1 million people, even if it's like, I would have to look at the, okay, so 300 million people. Let's say it's 300,000. That's 1% of the population. If 1% of the population aggregate on DC, representing themselves in full sovereignty of their own self-governance, and arrive there, and I mean, it would be even better if you had written documentation to hand to these fucks, but if you went to DC with an aggregate of the population or a representation of the actual population itself, then what meaning is there in representing the people? If the people are present as a collective, if the people make their presence in DC, where essentially the government exists, the federal government, we would be within our rights to completely take that over and replace it. The states are irrelevant. They're still running themselves. We're talking about the federal government here. See? And that's what people don't comprehend, is like, if you go to DC and take that shit over, it's not going to affect the states. The federal government is a totally separate entity. It's a corporation, actually. That has not fuck all to do with any of the states or the government of the states. That's the reality. We can take over DC. They're supposed to be representing us in a representative republic. If we represent ourselves, that's completely null and void and has no meaning. How could it? What, you representing me, but I'm representing myself? What the hell does that even mean? So if that is my strategy, my idea for a strategy as far as how to take this shit over. But it has to be legit. It can't just be a mob, you know? It has to be a grouping together in the spirit of, my word is Christ. I like using the word Christ. Christ means consciousness beyond the ego. Okay? Think of it that way. You have a personal awareness, and then you have a Christ awareness. Christ is beyond, it's the anointment, right? It's the anointed one. We are all one in that Christ consciousness. If you are aware of the fact that you are the spirit and not the corporeal form, then you can recognize that the deepest part of me is the deepest part of thee. And a phrase that I've come up with now is that the truth that shall set you free is that the deepest part of you is the deepest part of me. And guess what? If it rhymes, it's true. Okay? It's a maxim. Accept it. The truth that shall set you free is that the deepest part of you is the deepest part of me. And if we all collectively understand and embrace that concept, we no longer have to think in the paradigm of competition, and we can start actually working together to create a better world that our hearts know is possible. This is the way. Now, a part of this is my idea for a new education system or a new education paradigm that is actually just a neoclassical liberal art education. Neoclassical liberal arts education. And so what I did with the classical liberal arts is I expanded it from 7 to 21. And what this does is it basically allows for the human lifespan to be full of enlightened education to the point where once someone comes to, let's say, adulthood, they are prepared for what I call the Pentivium, which starts with a purification of mind, body, and soul. What is the book's title? The better world our hearts know is possible. I have heard that is a phrase. I'm sorry, I guess I am taking that from Charles Eisenstein, but it's a good phrase, and I don't think he necessarily created it either. I think that he heard that from somebody else too, probably. I've actually been at a conference where he was talking and sort of posed a question to him that he wasn't really able to answer, unfortunately. I don't think that he's like got it quite. Just my opinion. He's got a lot of rhetoric, but he doesn't have a vision for how to actually get there. This is what a lot of people do, is that they will create. It is a great phrase. It is the better world our hearts know is possible. I mean, let's face it. That's one of the it's an idealistic sort of concept. And I am, in a way, an idealist. I think that there's a possibility that we can create a better world, certainly, than what is currently available to us. They has created a world that's really sort of a shitty video game. You know what I mean? We all have these restrictions, and it's like, why? You know, my idea for so for instance, economically speaking, like humanity. We do realize that like money is completely valueless, right? Like at an empirical level, money has literally no value. Like the actual pieces of the certificates that we say is $1 or this or that, those are fictitious mental, tools that we use. They're not actually have any value in any way, shape, or form. It's really a psychological trick that has been played on the people of every country of the world, essentially, to be convinced that these pieces of paper have some kind of intrinsic value. When we realize that there is a higher value and that there's a higher purpose to our activity on this planet, it becomes self-evident that we have to sort of transform the economic model from this arbitrary money capitalistic sort of siphoning the wealth and the happiness of human beings into this upper echelon. And then what happens is, in a Monopoly game style way, there is now a higher species that called the banker, right? The bank is old wealth, the old higher society types, right? And I'm not trying to say like we have to hate these people, but the world that has been created around us has been orchestrated at their behest. So it's hard not to say, ugh. It's like I don't want to hate them or commit violence against them, but I sure as fuck don't want them ruling over me with an iron fist either. So at a certain point, we have to ask ourselves: is it worth being a slave to the money and worshiping money as our god, if we end up getting like minor titillations and like shitty, basically, like let's face it, they're already telling you that you will own nothing and be happy. People are already living out of their vans in Silicon Valley. Has anybody else seen that? The people who are working in Silicon Valley for these tech companies are all, just about all of them, are fucking living in vans outside of the hotels that are there. So, I mean, what we're talking about here is literally like a dystopic future already, okay? So, and we're looking at it getting worse. How can it possibly get worse? And yet it is. It's gradually getting worse and worse. And there are these. It's just like the book was saying. It's like there are these minor victories, but nothing really of any significance. Nothing that's actually going to inspire people to like get outside of this box that they're in. So the secret is like, okay, so for instance, my idea for the economic future of the world is the diametrically opposed position of the World Economic Forum. And I've read the World Economic Forum's books, okay? I've read these fucking books. I haven't read all of the bullshit that's in it, but I've read enough of these books that I know what the fuck they're about and what they're telling us. And what they're basically telling you is they're going to replace money with a kind of rollover. It's not rollover, but a kind of currency that's going to stick with you by your fucking biometrics. Okay, so they're going to have a carbon debt based system that's going to tell you you have a certain allotment of available whatever it is currency. It's going to be some kind of digital currency. You're going to have an allotment of that every month based on your contribution to society or whatever. It's not even just the World Health Organization. These non-governmental organizations have usurped the planet's fucking governments through medico-legal dictatorship. And this is orchestrated. This was all planned previously. 10 years ago, they were starting this process. And if you want proof of that, you can look up what is his name? It's some kind of a report. Guy who works, he lives in Japan and does news and other sort of documentary type things. I can't remember his fucking name right now. The Corbett Report. The Corbett, Corbet. Corbett Report. Okay? Probably one of the best YouTube channels on here, but basically he's got all the evidence of them planning and plotting out this before COVID, setting it up so that they could take over the fucking government this way. And it's by the globalists, you know, it's all being done in-house. It's a domestic threat of dictatorship. There's elements in the United States government that are working in tandem with the World Economic Forum, and they're all just you know, together. And so that's what we have to realize, is that this country is completely taken over by foreign interests. So what they're going to do is basically make it so that they can tell you how much energy you can use on a day-to-day. They're going to use artificial intelligence and quantum computing to be able to monitor literally everyone second by second, with the ability to regulate and control your usage of energy. And this is how they fucking do it, you know? And they're going to convince just about all the liberal types that this is for the greater good, you know? And that's how tyranny, just about historically speaking, has always operated. It's always operating on, well, it's for your own good. It's for the betterment of everybody. It's collectivist. We all have to think as a collective, you know, instead of as individuals, which is where we all thrive mentally and really physically too. I mean, if you're taking care of yourself instead of having the government taking care of you, you're almost always going to be in a better state. You're always going to be in a better state if you don't allow the medical industry to try to take care of you either. On average, unless there's like some kind of extreme cases, you know what I'm saying? But on average, if you're allowing the government or the medical industry or any industry to sort of tell you how to live your life or whatever, you have forfeited, you have become a ward of the state, a ward of the corporations, etc. And we as a society have to reach a level of maturity that makes them and their power structure irrelevant. It just has to happen at a certain point. It's an inevitability. Either we go in the direction of the Klaus Schwab chipped, everybody's fucking chipped, and everybody's lives are completely regulated and regimented by unelected bureaucrats, or, okay, very good, very good. Corbett Report is huge, huge source of extremely valuable information. Now look, we can either go in the direction of the Klaus Schwab future, where we will all be completely impoverished but happy. We will own nothing, but we will be happy. That's where they want to take us, okay? And using digital currencies and all this other stuff, which is just a vapor, you know? So if we go in that direction, we're fucked. That's pretty much, we all know. We all know that if we go into the Klaus Schwab future, we're all going to be, and our children and everybody in the future is going to be pretty much under the thumb of the government. However, if we choose the diametrically opposed direction, it isn't barter, right? Bartering is a step back. To me, much of it comes down to a battle between forces favoring coercion and forces acknowledge and emergence from the higher station of Christ consciousness, as you're referring to. Correct. So what is the economy of Christ consciousness? What does a Christ consciousness economy look like? This is something that I wrote about back in like 2012 or so. I think I created the video for it in 2014, 15. But I call it the cloud economy. We don't go back. You never go back, okay? We can never go back. You can always, it's evolution. It is evolution. And that's exactly what it has to be. It's emergent from a higher consciousness, okay? So how do we go forward and transcend instead of trying to go back and sort of bartering and all that other bullshit? Because nobody wants to have to actually barter. It's way too difficult and like, it's just impractical. It's an impractical process. So how do we solve this conundrum? Everybody wants to go back. It's so funny. It's like people can't get outside of this like thing. I guess what it comes down to is people don't know economics at like a deep, coherent level. So what I'm saying, and this is also, I don't have this book, but it's based off of a book by Oxford Press. I want to say it's Truth, by Kahn. I'm gonna have to look it up and fuck. But basically, the book is about trust. Okay. So, what it basically talks about is the fact that if you have somebody come up to you and you trust implicitly that they have contributed to society, what's the difference between them producing a certificate and me just implicitly knowing that they've contributed? Why does there have to be a middleman of the dollar or the banking system in order for me to make the declaration or the designation of that person being worthy of me giving them simply what they want? If I'm let's say I work at Taco Bell, okay? If I go around, if I am the person at the window and somebody comes up to the window and says, all right, or up to the, the microphone and says, I'd like a quesadilla, so on and so forth. Okay, pull around to the first window. You pull around to the first window, you have a certificate in the form of $1 You have to have a certain number of those dollars in order to pay for that. Or you go around to the window and you have a credit card and you give them your credit card and there's a chip in that card and they, do whatever they got to do, right? So let's say if we evolve to the next stage, right? In Klaus Schwab's future, you're going to have a card, but it's going to have a biometric ID chip attached to it, and it'll basically be your citizenship card. You know what I'm saying? That's fucking. It'll have it'll have everything fucking on it, right? So even in their future, they're talking about basically reducing it down to a card, it'll be universal. It'd be like your passport plus your credit card. But on that, there's going to be a certain amount of credits that don't roll over that you have to spend, or else you don't get it back. Now, under my condition here, under my idea, it would be similar, but it'd be the opposite. Because what they're going to do is they're going to have you have a social credit score based on who you are in society. And what I'm talking about is your contribution to society in and of itself acts as the currency. Trust and love are the currency of a Christ economy. Trust and love. Now, we could use tangible mediums of exchange for this implied trust, or we could just simply have the implied trust act as the medium of exchange. If that makes sense. I hope this makes sense. So what Klaus is trying to do, and his ilk, they're trying to make it so that you are controlled with this new cashless society. And what I'm trying to do is to liberate humanity with the cashless society. And the only way to do that is through love and trust. The way that they're going to go about it is through distrust and debt. They don't trust you, which is why they need it to all be biometric IDs and this whole, are you kidding me? We don't need all that. That's absurd. And it's also draconian as fuck, and it makes me feel like they're trying to create a new world order dictatorship, right? So the solution to that is love and trust. And I know it sounds woo-woo, it sounds kind of, lofty and everything, but that's what the Christ consciousness is telling us. I don't know how to add the donate button. I do have a Patreon on my TikTok. I have a Patreon, but I mean, I would appreciate. Look, I am basically in the position of Christ. At the end of the month, I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to be straight up fucking living out of my car again for the second time because I can't close my mouth. And I demand respect in certain cases. That's pretty much why I am. Also because I had to leave my apartment to fix my car. I had to pay $1,600 to fucking fix my car, and now it's in the shop again because of the transmission, and that's literally got to be rebuilt. And I have no other options for cars, so I have to go fucking through with it. Luckily enough, my grandfather died, and his inheritance is going to be able to pay for my transmission, but that's seriously fucking me, And at this point, nobody in my family is willing to sort of support me. I'm fucking 34. I understand it, it's fucking reasonable. But I don't really have a way of getting the fuck out. I'm going to be homeless. So I'm looking at literally, rest in peace, thanks. I'm literally gonna probably become new Christ here on earth. Once that happens, I'm just gonna fucking travel and go places and fucking, because I even have children, but I'm not gonna be able to do anything. What the fuck am I doing? I have children that call me daddy. Okay, one of them isn't mine, but the deadbeat father isn't fucking there, so she calls me dad because I'm there. I'm there. So she calls me dad, you know? And I love these children more than anything else in the world. And I'm not going to be able to be their parent at a certain point because I'm not going to even have a fucking domicile. So my rationale is become the martyr that you were born to be, you know? And start preaching the truth in places that probably oughtn't, right? Because that's how this is, like, what world am I gonna give them if I'm just some normie? If I'm just some normal, everyday kind of guy, what the fuck am I gonna provide for their future? I'm not gonna be able to make enough money for them to be able to buy a house. That's not even gonna be possible for them because BlackRock's gonna buy it all up. Bill Gates is gonna fucking buy it all up, and their ilk is gonna fucking own everything, and she's gonna be impoverished in the land that her forefathers conquered. Which, you know, doesn't give legitimacy to its existence in that form, but still, nonetheless, we have an obligation to fight this evil power. And like I said, the only way that you can really legitimately fight evil is with heart. Heart is the key. These children are basically the source of my sense of heart. I'm going to fight for them. And you know, this is the thing. I would fight for those kids. And then it makes me think about all the children of the world that are just being totally steamrolled by this fucking New World Order. I mean, it's insane, man. And honestly, guys, if you want to if you want to have more of a chance of hearing from me, I mean, I could make lives like this on YouTube more often, I guess. But TikTok on the 9th, I'm going to be able to have lives on there. And I'm Ivium_Academy on TikTok. Now, I know it's fucking sucks that that's a good app, but it is kind of a good app, actually, for sharing information of this kind. I have over 2,000 followers. I almost have 3,000 followers on TikTok, whereas I only have like 100 and something on here. Maybe if I do this more, I'd be able to get more of an audience. I don't know. But 10 minutes from now, I'm going to stop this live and I guess go to bed, drink some water. But I really think that that's the answer, is to make more lives and add a donate button. Okay, so if you love TikTok, yeah, hit me up on or find me as Ivium, IVIUM_Academy. And that's my name, or one of the names. I have 2 accounts because I'm trying to, they keep fucking banning me, dude. They keep suspending my lives on there and fucking taking down videos and all kinds of shit. But that just means that I'm speaking the truth. So I will come on here more. I didn't realize I could actually do lives on this shit, to be honest. I think I had tried to make a live before, and I'm not sure if this is being recorded. If this is being recorded and I can post this shit, that's fucking excellent. That's fucking excellent. I'm pretty sure it is. So I might start doing lives more often on here, knowing that. But I would almost need to start transferring audiences. I need this shit to get out to more people, just in general, man. The message needs to. I need more of an audience, straight up. And I'm ready now for that audience. I'm now ready for the large audience sort of process. Okay, so IG3. I'll follow you at the turn of the hour here. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna end up having to happen because they keep fucking banning me. I mean, even the stitches. What's happened now is I'll make a stitch, and every stitch I make, it takes out the stitch that I added. So it'll just be the stitch and not the video or the audio that I produced. So they're censoring me indirectly that way. And it's on both accounts that I have that it's that way. And it's not settings on my phone or any of that shit. Nothing's changed. It's fucking weird, like, doesn't work anymore. And So it's very interesting how that's happened. I don't. There's no explanation. They didn't notify me of any like violations or anything, so I don't really understand how that's possible. But it just doesn't fucking work. So it might just end up happening that I have to direct people to the YouTube account. And seeing as how I have a much longer track record on here from like 2006, it makes sense that I would have, you know, more of an audience on here. And I mean, the thing is, if you look back at my older videos, it's fucking consistent. I might change slightly, you know, on certain superficial ones. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah. Oh, he was telling him. Oh, okay, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't make videos on here, on YouTube, but yes, please feel free to be in touch. Yeah, I mean, all I can really do at this point is, you know, speak at all. Um, and the thing is, like, where I live, you know, I live in sort of a county that is Christian conservative. So speaking this kind of message in public is, I mean, it's not the smartest thing to do. People are very closed-minded on average. Makes it very difficult to um, feel safe in spreading that kind of a message. Go to DC maybe. And the other thing is the liberals are just as bad, man. You go to Baltimore, uh, I mean, I don't know. Point is basically, you know, I'm feeling much more open to actually doing this kind of shit, and I don't really have much more. I don't really have much time to spend kind of lollygagging around. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. That's really what I'm saying. Is like, you know, you go out into the world, and unless you are um, extremely approachable, extreme. I mean, like you'd almost have to have the Christ aura or whatever uh, to not be just met with absolute vitriol and attack. Um, it's one of those things, man. It's just really fucked up. The world has become so polarized and so atomized at this point that it's really hard to imagine like a better world as the future. Um, shit, I mean, 5, 10 years ago, it was bad enough. After 2012, people got fucking schizo. Um, and it really is stemming from the political bullshit. I mean, with Barack Obama, and then in 2016, I mean, Jesus Christ, man, it's never ending, and the polarization just exacerbates and exacerbates with the media pulling the strings and everything. But I've talked to liberals. My mom married a liberal, not a leftist, but a liberal, and I mean, he's black as well, like from Baltimore, and he knows what's up. Like, I'll say some shit about the media and about the government and about all this shit, and he's like nodding his head, like, "Yep, yeah, I know." And so it's also like the youth. Like the youth don't fucking get it. The people who have been through the college system and have been brainwashed by the universities, those people are actually the more troublesome. And I would be much more comfortable talking with older people now than I am with people my own age or people younger than me. Uh, Mainly because people are totally fucking dissuaded and ignorant and brainwashed, indoctrinated, etc. And the younger you are and the better you were at school, the more probable it is that you have completely got no brains of your own and you have adopted whatever secondhand knowledge you received from those institutions as absolute truth. unquestioning faith is given to these institutions. It's like it was during the Roman Empire, or during the Holy Roman Empire and the church, where if you have any disobedient thought to the order as it is, you are excommunicated. You are, if anything, a heretic. This is what the whole mask wearing and you have to get a vaccine is all about. That's all that is, just rhetoric from that perspective. That if you're, and that's also part of the great narrative, by the way. The great narrative is, if you don't believe the narrative, you're a bad fucking person and you need to go and be re-educated. That's literally what the book, The Great Narrative, by Klaus Schwab and his ilk, is telling you. It's telling you that people will, and I mean this, it's literally telling you in that book that people will need to be re-educated. And not for jobs, but for ideology, in order to accept this world that they're bringing on. So I'm telling you as a warning, man, this really is sort of the last minutes of this country's life, and we need to recognize that and act accordingly. Whatever that means for you. Hell, I'm gonna be fucking homeless, so I'm more than likely gonna storm the castle, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And this is the thing: life is an RPG. What's the first quest in the main quest in Skyrim that makes the whole game possible? You start out in a prison, and your first quest is to escape the prison that you're in and free all of the other prisoners. That's the first quest of all of us. And if you, and this is the thing, you only reach level 1 in the game so that you can start playing it after you have completely practiced the whole Pentivium. That's how you reach level 1. And if you go to my TikTok, I explain in my pins the whole Ivium process, as well as the Pentivium. And if you go and if you actually start learning this and practicing it, it's very simple. But if you start practicing that, you will no longer be an NPC in this world. You will be the original character playing your avatar. And by virtue of that, nobody can enslave you, because you have enslaved yourself to yourself. You will have put yourself under your own dominion. You will become the master of yourself. You will have become self-mastered. And self-mastery is ultimately the goal of this life, of our lives, to master yourself. And that's it. That's where I guess I'll leave for right now. I appreciate you guys sticking with me on this one. It even if it's just 2 people, you know, because what this does is this vibrates out into sort of a much wider bandwidth area, consciousness-wise, like mentally. So I'll end with my usual salutation, which is love and appreciation. We are oneself. Peace.